-50-degree wind chills right now. 14,000 homes without power in New Jersey alone. And what's forming over the Pacific Ocean could shut down major highways by Wednesday. This isn't a typical winter storm. 1,200 snow reports flooded in yesterday. Montana buried under the heaviest snowfall. Illinois, Iowa, Indiana seeing 5 to 8 inches. But here's what the weather maps aren't showing you. While you're digging out from this storm, another system is already organizing, and this one crosses the entire country. In exactly 45 seconds, I'm going to reveal which states face the highest wind threat. But first, you need to see what's happening right now. Minneapolis, 20 degrees below zero this morning. Not the wind chill, the actual temperature. Chicago sitting at 0. Northern Texas waking up in the 20s. Northern Mississippi and Alabama, same story. Indiana and Ohio, single digits. The Midwest and Upper Midwest, below zero. These aren't just cold numbers. These are dangerous conditions. When your car thermometer reads 0, but the wind makes it feel like -20, exposed skin can freeze in minutes. Northern Minnesota is experiencing wind chills of -40 to -50 degrees. Missouri, northern Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky, the interior Northeast, all dealing with sub-zero wind chills right now. But temperature is only part of the story. The I-95 corridor is still getting pounded with snow as we speak. New Jersey has 14,000 homes in the dark. Pennsylvania adds another 10,000. That's 76,000 total nationwide. And the number keeps climbing because the snow hasn't stopped. Another 3 to 4 inches coming today across the Northeast. Lake effect snow continuing for Michigan, Indiana, West Virginia, Western Pennsylvania, and Western New York. If you live in these zones, you know what lake effect means. It doesn't stop. It just keeps coming, band after band. Here's the wind information I promised at 45 seconds. And this is critical. At the 3-minute 10 mark, I'm going to show you the exact timeline, but the European model is showing 50 to 60 mile-per-hour wind gusts across a massive area. The American GFS model? Even stronger. 70 mile-per-hour gusts in multiple states. Montana, the Central Plains, the Great Lakes, the Northeast. All of you are in the path. Now ask yourself this question. What creates winds that powerful? The answer is pressure. When you have intense low pressure next to strong high pressure, the atmosphere tries to balance itself, fast. That creates wind. Damaging wind. And the setup developing right now has all the ingredients. But winds are just one piece. At the 5-minute mark, I'll explain why the Pacific Northwest is about to face something they might not be ready for. First, let me show you what Monday brings to the south. If you're in Texas, Louisiana, or along the Gulf Coast, Monday is your coldest day. Freezing temperatures push all the way to northern Florida. Yes, northern Florida drops below 32 degrees Monday morning. The mid-Mississippi Valley, Ohio Valley, and Northeast see single-digit temperatures. Wind chills stay brutal. This is the day the cold reaches its maximum extent southward. Tuesday starts the transition, not to warmth, not yet. But the coldest air begins lifting north. And that's when the West Coast pattern takes over as the dominant story. Here's what I promised at 5 minutes. The Pacific Northwest is about to get hit by an atmospheric river. For those unfamiliar, an atmospheric river is a narrow corridor of moisture in the sky. Sometimes they're called Pineapple Express events. This one is strong. And it's not a one-day event. It's a multi-day siege. Washington and Oregon, listen carefully. Your rivers are already at major flood stage. Some have been there for days. This week adds 5 to 10 inches of rain across widespread areas. Some locations could see 15 inches. When you dump that much water onto already saturated ground and into already swollen rivers, you get catastrophic flooding potential. The forecast for the next 7 days shows something we rarely see. Persistent moisture just hammering the same areas over and over. It's not one storm, it's a pattern. High pressure sitting off the coast acts like a wall. Low pressure in the northern Pacific keeps feeding moisture into that wall. And where do those two forces collide? Right over Washington and Oregon. At the 8-minute 30 mark, I'll break down what happens when this moisture crosses the Rockies. But first, the snow forecast for the mountains. Using a 10-to-1 snow ratio, we're looking at 4 to 6 feet in the higher elevations of Washington, Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming. 4 to 6 feet. In less than a week, If conditions turn colder, that ratio could go to 12 to 1 or higher. We could be talking about even more. These aren't fluffy snow totals. This is heavy, wet snow at lower elevations and deep powder up high. Travel through these areas, Wednesday through Saturday, is going to be extremely difficult. Mountain passes could close. Chain requirements will be in effect where roads stay open. If you have travel plans through the Cascades or the Northern Rockies, you need backup options. Now here's the question that should concern everyone east of the Rockies. Where does all that moisture go after it crosses the mountains? Because atmospheric rivers don't just dump their load and disappear. They feed into the next weather system. And that's exactly what's happening here. As promised at 8:30, here's the connection. That Pacific moisture crosses the Rockies by Wednesday and Thursday. At the same time, a powerful storm system is organizing across the northern plains. These two elements combine. The moisture feeds the storm intensifies, and by Thursday, you have a major weather event tracking from the Rockies to the East Coast. This storm brings heavy snow to the northern tier. Montana, North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Upper Michigan, all the way across the Great Lakes and into the interior Northeast. We're talking significant accumulations, not just a few inches. Potentially a major snow event for some of these areas. But the northern snow is only half the story. The southern side of this system? That's where the wind comes in. And not just wind, severe weather potential. At the 11-minute mark, I'll give you the severe weather breakdown. But here's what the models show right now. Thursday evening into Friday morning, a line of strong to severe thunderstorms tracks across the mid-Mississippi Valley and Ohio Valley. Damaging straight-line winds are the primary threat. We're not talking about a major tornado outbreak, but isolated damaging winds of 50 to 70 miles per hour are possible. This happens because the storm pulls warm, moist air up from the Gulf of Mexico. At the same time, cold air rushes in behind the system. Where those two air masses collide, you get instability. You get energy. You get storms. Behind the storms comes the cold. Another blast of below-average temperatures sweeps across the Midwest and Great Lakes Friday and Saturday. Not as extreme as what we're experiencing right now, but enough to refreeze any melted snow. Any wet roads become ice. This is a hazard people forget about. The day after the warmth, when temperatures crash again, is when accidents spike. Now here's where the forecast takes an unusual turn. And this is information you won't hear in most broadcasts. After this storm passes, after the cold blast moves through, we're heading into a significant warm-up. I'm talking about a pattern flip that lasts all the way through Christmas. The Climate Prediction Center outlook from December 21st through 27th shows above-average temperatures across most of the United States. The only exceptions are the Pacific Northwest, parts of the Northern Plains, and New England. Everyone else? Warmer than normal. In some cases, significantly warmer. This is what forecasters call the Great Thaw. And it brings its own set of problems. At the 14-minute 40 mark, I'll explain exactly why. But first, let me show you what this means temperature-wise. Areas that are struggling to reach the 20s today could see temperatures in the 50s by next Thursday. That's a 30-degree swing. Some locations could see even bigger jumps, 40 to 60-degree temperature increases over a 4 to 5 day period. Minneapolis going from -20 to the 30s. That's a 50-degree change. When snow melts that quickly, where does the water go? Into the ground, but the ground might be frozen, so it runs off. Into storm drains, into ditches, into streams and rivers. Urban flooding becomes a concern. Rural flooding, where fields are covered in snow, becomes a concern. And river flooding, where all that runoff eventually ends up, becomes a major concern. This is the problem I mentioned at 1440. The Great Thaw creates flooding risk just as significant as the atmospheric river, but in completely different areas. The Midwest, the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, these regions that are buried in snow right now will be dealing with rapid snowmelt flooding next week. Now let me address the question everyone asks during these extreme swings. Why? What causes this? The answer is the jet stream. That river of air 30,000 feet up that controls our weather patterns. Right now, it has a deep southward dip over the eastern United States. That's why we're so cold. That dip is funneling Arctic air straight down from Canada. But by next week, that pattern flips. A strong ridge of high pressure builds over the central United States. The jet stream lifts north, and instead of Arctic air, we get mild Pacific air. The temperature change is dramatic because the pattern change is dramatic. At the 17-minute mark, I'll tell you what happens after Christmas. But here's your action plan for this week. If you're in the extreme cold right now, today and tomorrow are your worst days. Limit outdoor exposure, check on elderly neighbors, bring pets inside. These temperatures kill. It's not an exaggeration. Wind chills of -40 can cause frostbite in 10 minutes or less. If you're in the Pacific Northwest, starting tomorrow and running through Friday, you're in an active flood threat period. Tuesday night into Wednesday is forecast to be the peak. Monitor river levels. Know your evacuation routes. Have a plan. If local authorities issue evacuation orders, follow them immediately. These atmospheric river events can produce flash flooding in mountainous areas and sustained river flooding in valleys. If you're in the path of Wednesday through Friday's storm, prepare for multiple hazards. Heavy snow in the northern areas. High winds across a broad swath of the country. Severe weather potential in the south. Power outages are likely in some areas. Have flashlights, batteries, charging devices ready. If you heat with electricity and you lose power in cold weather, you need a backup plan. For those with holiday travel plans next week, the warm-up is good news for road conditions. But the active pattern continues. More systems are likely before Christmas. Stay flexible. Monitor forecasts daily. Conditions can change rapidly in patterns this active. Now, as promised at 17 minutes, let's talk about what happens after Christmas. The Arctic Oscillation, which measures the strength of Arctic air, shows a significant shift coming. Right around Christmas and into early January, we're likely heading back into a colder pattern. This could be a major change. January might bring a prolonged cold spell. We're also watching the North Atlantic Oscillation, the NAO. It's trending negative. When the NAO goes negative, cold air has a better chance of plunging deep into the eastern United States, sometimes all the way to the Gulf Coast. We're too far out to know specifics, but the signal is there. January could be harsh. February is even more uncertain, but the same patterns that bring January cold often persist into February. If the Arctic Oscillation stays strong and the NAO stays negative, we could be looking at a February that reminds people what real winter feels like. But that's 3 to 6 weeks away. Models change. Patterns evolve. What matters right now is the next 10 days. And those 10 days are packed with weather. Today, dangerous cold continues. Lake effect snow persists. Power outages climb. Monday, cold reaches maximum southern extent. Northern Florida freezes. Single digits spread across the Mississippi and Ohio valleys. Tuesday, atmospheric river ramps up in the Pacific Northwest. Heavy rain begins in Washington and Oregon. Wednesday, storm system begins organizing in the Rockies. Mountain snow intensifies. Rain continues on the west coast. Thursday, major storm crosses the northern plains into the Midwest. Heavy snow on the northern side, severe weather potential on the southern side, very high winds across multiple states. Friday, storm reaches the northeast. Cold air rushes in behind it across the Midwest, potential for rapid refreezing. Saturday, storm exits, cold reinforces, but warm-up begins building in the west. Sunday and beyond, temperatures surge across most of the country. The Great Thaw begins. Flooding concerns increase. At the 22-minute mark, I'll give you the final piece of information you need. But here's what the models are showing for snowfall totals through Saturday. Montana, North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Upper Michigan, 6 to 12 inches. Locally higher. Great Lakes region, 6 to 10 inches with additional lake effect. Interior Northeast, 4 to 8 inches. These are significant totals, enough to disrupt travel, enough to cause power outages if heavy wet snow brings down trees or power lines. The mountain snow out west is even more impressive, 4 to 6 feet in the Cascades and northern Rockies, some models showing localized totals over 6 feet in the highest elevations. Ski resorts will love this, highway departments, not so much. Wind gusts of 50 to 70 miles per hour are forecast across broad areas. These winds can knock down trees, damage structures, create power outages, and make driving extremely difficult, especially for high-profile vehicles. If you're driving a moving truck, an RV, or towing a trailer through these areas Thursday or Friday, reconsider your timing. The severe weather threat Thursday is still being refined. We need to see how much instability develops. But damaging straight-line winds appear likely across portions of the mid-Mississippi Valley and Ohio Valley Thursday evening into Friday morning. Small hail is possible. An isolated tornado can't be ruled out, but it's not the main concern. Wind is the primary threat. As promised at 22 minutes, here's the final critical piece. Tomorrow's forecast update will have refined timing. We'll know better exactly when the heaviest Pacific rain falls. We'll have updated wind speed forecasts as models converge. We'll have better clarity on severe weather parameters for Thursday, and we'll start getting a clearer picture of next week's warm-up timing. This is a rapidly evolving situation. What I've given you today is based on the latest model data, but models update every 6 hours. Tomorrow morning's forecast could shift timing by 12 hours, could increase or decrease wind speeds, could expand or contract snow areas. That's why daily updates matter in patterns this active. One more thing. Next week's warm-up is significant, but it's not permanent. The pattern shift coming in January could bring everything back. Colder temperatures, more snow potential, active winter weather. We're not done with winter. We're just getting a break during the holidays. This week requires attention, multiple threats, multiple regions, multiple days, but it's manageable. Stay informed, have a plan, check on others. And remember, weather is temporary. The cold breaks, the warm-up comes, the pattern shifts again. It's what weather does, always changing, always keeping us on our toes, but always giving us enough warning that we can prepare. Check back tomorrow morning for the updated forecast with refined details. This is the kind of week where things change daily and staying current matters. Until then, stay safe and stay warm.